Hi, my name is Vera. I'm a product manager at Ellevest, where we strive to put more money in the hands of women. And today I'm going to tell you a little story about how, when we introduced our mobile app, we experienced the growth in our customers as expected, but quite unexpectedly, we actually also experienced the growth in the key characteristics and the variety of the people that came to us. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Ellevest. How many of you know how much money they need to put away today to retire at ease, and hopefully also be happy along the way? All right, not many show of hands. If you didn't raise your hand, no worry. That's exactly where Ellevest comes in. We strive to make investing really, really easy, and we do that specifically targeted towards women. The reason why we're targeting women is, first, women usually live longer, so yay, good for us. But on the other hand, we typically earn less. So when you think about how much you need to put away today for your retirement, you need to take that into account. And secondly, a lot of women in this country, while they control a lot of the wealth, they don't actually necessarily put that money to use. The majority of women keeps about 70% of their assets in cash, and we're trying to change that. The way we go about that is we just ask you a few questions about you, your gender, your income, any other investments or assets that you may have, and then what it is that you actually want to do with that money, whether it is buying a fancy home, your retirement, a trip around the world. And then we take all of that together, put it in what we call a plan, recommend how much money you should put away, we put together the portfolio, we invest the money for you, and you then go about, enjoy your life, and don't really have to think about necessarily us or your money again until you either need that money or things change in your life. Now, this worked really well for our core persona, pre-2019, who was a woman that was well established in her job, usually in her 30s to 40s. She had enough income to pay her bills and also had enough money left over to put some money aside to save. And she came to us to get more out of her money and to basically not lose money along the way. Enter 2019. We launched a mobile app that was mainly due to demand by our existing customers. And our existing customers really loved that experience and took to it. But at the same time, as we marketed it in new channels, we also saw a large number of different women come our way. So we saw that there was a much wider variety in both income. We saw much more women with lower income. We also saw a different variety in age. So much younger women were coming our way that maybe had just finished college. And when you think back to that original persona, a few things change. Obviously, if you remember when you just got out of college, you may not necessarily know where your next paycheck is going to come from. You may not know if you like your job or what career to choose, or you may not know where you're going to live in 3 months. So we definitely saw a drop in conversion and in what people, we saw that excitement, but we didn't see that they actually knew what to do with the product. So while that all made sense to us on a high level, we really wanted to dig a little bit deeper and understand what that means, how this group thinks about their money and how they think about us and how we can actually help them. So we talked to a lot of users in that group, and we found 3 main themes that emerged from that. The first one was that a lot of them felt they weren't really ready because they couldn't put enough money away or enough what they thought was enough. And we really wanted to make sure that they understood that starting with a few dollars today is way better than starting with many more dollars in like 2 or 3 years down the line, because that money can start growing now and you can also build those habits. The second thing was that idea of putting together that plan that I mentioned in the beginning to kind of figure out everything at once didn't really work for someone who wasn't really even sure what the next 3 months were going to look like or the next year. So that whole idea of a plan didn't really fit. And then lastly, we had a lot of more customers that had debt, especially since people that just came out of college, they had their student loans to pay off, and they weren't really sure whether or not investing was right for them today, or that they should pay off their debt first, or maybe do both side by side. Now, with that led us to this kind of new mantra of allowing for more incremental steps, finding ways to not close this group out from investing, and at the same time for us as a firm to move closer towards that audience and what we call meet her where she's at. So with that, we made a few changes. We're still the same company, But we actually spun up a new product team, a new pod. We're also currently thinking through a few new product lines that I won't be talking about here. And we also really looked at the onboarding team to figure out how they can change to really think through onboarding for that new group. And the first thing that the onboarding team focused on was bringing the educational content that we had into the app. We do have a lot of magazine articles that talk about all these themes, but we didn't really have them in the product. And especially for us, our onboarding process is actually a very big piece of the product, because you have to make all these decisions. We wanted to make sure that she knew exactly what she was, that she had the right information at her fingertips when she made those decisions. The second thing was, that daunting feeling of not really knowing what it is that expects you in life. We wanted to make sure that she knew that we were with her at all points of the journey, and also let her know that there are other women in the community just like her. So we started a new pod that specifically dealt with engagement and giving her snippets along the way, so that she didn't just have to do everything in the beginning and then felt like kind of left alone. So now we have more and more customers. We definitely grew the number of our customers. Of course, some of them make smaller incremental contributions to Ellevest, so there's a change in the product that way, but we definitely see much more engagement. And what's really nice about this is that obviously that group is going to grow one day into our existing core group and really be, a boss lady, as we like to say. But at the same time, we also took some learnings from that younger group and are actually applying it to our existing core persona. So it's kind of like a, nice round circle. And that's really the story of how we're at Ellevest. When we introduced the mobile app, we really had to think again back to our customers and see how it all fits together and what we can learn from them to grow better. Thank you.